It's a beautiful day. It's sunny here in London, and not only sunny, it's also descent from heaven, as Jackie already explained to you. I heard it all. That, yeah, it's a very auspicious day, one of the 4 days of the year, next to the Buddha's enlightenment and parinirvana and birth. You know, that's one Sakadawa event we have, and then one of in 15 days after Tibetan New Year, or after the moon calendar New Year, that the Buddha subdued all the maras, so to say. And then we have one event, the first teaching of the Buddha, as you know, in the 4th date of the 6th moon month. And today is, Lama Dusha, so it's very fortunate to have, you know, this particular day. And not only this particular day, also we're going to talk about the model of how to develop bodhicitta. So it's very auspicious day today. Because of this particular day, whatever we do, the merit, or so to say, multiplies like millions and millions of times. So yeah, especially for bodhicitta, that's even more a kind of very fortunate and very auspicious for us to discuss bodhicitta today. And yeah, try to have also a motivation in accordance with the mind of enlightenment. Yes, I think that is countless sentient beings who basically depends on karmic connections with others in order to get liberated, and we have an uncommon karmic connection with many of them, or infinite beings, so to say. So it depends on us of be able to benefit them well. So that if you think in those lines, it feels kind of responsibility that you know, if we develop, they can really benefit. So it's kind of, we have to do something. And what do we have to do? We have to enter the Bodhisattvayana in order to achieve the state of enlightenment. And the real entering door to the Bodhisattvayana is generating bodhicitta. Yeah, that's what we're going to discuss this weekend. So generate that kind of motivation for yourself. And then in front, imagine Sakyamuni Buddha surrounded by the masters of the lineage of Tibet, as well as India and other Buddhist traditions. And surround yourself these infinite sentient beings. And focus upon infinite sentient beings according to our motivation. I think we're here to liberate them and to lead them in the prayer. So that's also what we take into account before we recite the prayers together, when we reflect upon the 3 jewels of refuge with a praise to the Buddha, and removing obstacles with the Heart Sutra, contemplate emptiness, and then the whole path and the foundation of all qualities. Yeah, so take it into account in prayers to the founder, the down transcendent destroyer, the one gone beyond, the full destroyer, the complete, perfect, full awakened being, in knowledge and good conduct, God and over the world, bring guide of human beings to be attained, teacher of gods and human beings, to you, the complete, fully awakened one, down transcendent destroyer, and power conqueror, subdue from the second, prostrate make offerings and go for refuge. To the founder, the endowed, transcendent destroyer, the one gone beyond, the flow destroyer, the completely perfected, fully awakened being, perfect in knowledge and in good conduct.
Can you, Geshe-la? Sorry, can you please unmute yourself?
I don't have to start over, is it?
We sort of just finish the second recitation of Lama Chomdende.
Yeah. Okay, one more, third one, page 73. To the founder, down transcendent destroyer, the one gone beyond, the full destroyer, the complete, perfect, full awakened being, Perfect in knowledge and good conduct, Sagatana of the world, supreme guide of human beings to be tamed, teacher of God's human beings, to you the complete and fully awakened one, that don't transcend, destroy, the glorious conqueror, subdue from the Saki clan, the straightening of refuge. When I'm supreme amongst humans, you were born on this earth, you played out in 7 strides, and then said, I'm supreme in this world. To you, wise and prostrate. A pure body is formed supremely pure, wisdom ocean like a golden mountain. Fame that blazes in the 3 worlds, wind of the best Lord to you prostrate. With supreme science, face like a spotless moon, color like gold to you prostrate. Thus free like you, the 3 worlds are not, incomparable wise one to you prostrate. The Savior having great compassion, the Founder having all understanding, the field of merit, with God is like a vast ocean. To you, the one count the dustmans are prostrate. The purity that frees from attachment, the virtue that frees from the lower realms, the one part sublime pure reality, the Dharma that pacifies and prostrates. Those who liberated and show the path to liberation, the only field qualified realizations, were devoted to the moral precepts, to you, sublime community tending virtue are prostrate. Homage to the Supreme, homage to the Dharma refuge, homage to the great Sangha. To all 3 ever devote homage. To all worldly of respect, bound with bodies, as many as all realms in all aspects. With supreme faith I pay homage. Do not commit any non-virtuous actions. Perform only perfect virtuous actions. Subdue your mind thoroughly. This is the teaching of the Buddha. A star, visible vibration, a flame of a lamp, an illusion, drop or a dew or a bubble. A dream, a flash of lightning, a cloud, see conditioned things as such. To this merits may all sentient beings attain the rank of all scenes, subdue the full faults, be delivered from Samsara ocean, perturbed by the waves, aging, sickness, and death. I prostrate to the Arya triple gem. Thus I heard one time the Bhagwan was dwelling on the most virtuous mountain in Rajgir, together with a great community of monks and a great community of bodhisattvas. At that time, the Bhagwan was absorbed in the concentration of categories phenomena called profound perception. Also at that time, the Bodhisattva Mahasattva Arya Avalokitesvara looked upon the very practice of profound action of wisdom and beheld those 5 aggregates also as entering in nature. Then to the power of the Buddha, the Venerable Shariputra, said to the Bodhisattva Mahasattva Arya Avalokitesvara, how should I, the son of the lineage, train who wishes to practice activities in profound action of wisdom? He said that in the Bodhisattva Mahasattva Arya Avalokitesvara said this to the Venerable Shariputra. Shariputra and his son of the lineage or daughter of the lineage who wishes to practice activities in profound action of wisdom should look upon it like this, and correctly in repeating behold those 5 aggregates also as entering nature. Form is empty, emptiness is form. Empty is not other than form, and form is not other than emptiness. In the same way, feeling, discrimination, consciousness factors, consciousness are empty. Shariputra, likewise, all phenomena emptiness without characteristic, unproduced, unseized, stained, not wisdom, not fulfilled. Shariputra, therefore, in emptiness is no form, no feeling, no discrimination, no causation factors, consciousness. No eye, no ear, no nose, no tongue, no body, no mind, no visible form, no sound, no odor, no taste, no object of touch, no phenomenon. There is no element up till and including no mind element and no mental consciousness. There is no ignorance, extinction of ignorance, and so on, and up to including aging and death, and extinction, aging, and death. Similarly, there is no suffering, ordination, cessation, and path. There is no exalted wisdom, no attainment, and also non-attainment. Shariputra, therefore, because there's no attainment, bodhisattvas rely and dwell on perfection of wisdom. Obscuration without fear. Having completely passed beyond error, to reach the end point of nirvana, all the Buddhas who dwell in the 3 times also manifest complete awake to non-surprised perfect completely in reliance on the perfection of wisdom. Therefore, the mantra of perfection of wisdom, the mantra of great knowledge, non-surprised mantra, the mantra equal to non-equal, the mantra to really pacify all suffering should be known as the truth, since not false. The mantra of perfection of wisdom is declared, Taita, Gata Gata, Paragata, Parasamgata, Bodhisattva. Shariputra, the Bodhisattva, Mahasattva, should train in profound perfection of wisdom like that. Then the Bhagwan rose from that concentration and commended to the Bodhisattva, Mahasattva, Arya, saying, well said, son of the lineage, it is like that. It is like that one should practice profound perfection of wisdom, just as you indicate. That's with yours. The Bhagwan, having thus spoken, the Venerable Shariputra, the Bodhisattva, Mahasattva, Arya, Avalokitesvara, and those surrounding there entirely, along with the words of gods, humans, asuras, and Ganavas, were overjoyed and highly praised. I prostrate to the gathering of the kinis of the 3 chakras, who abide of the holy yoga using space. By the powers of clairvoyance and connection, look like a magician, like a mother for a child. Akasamara Sasanasam. Aga samara samara yapi. Dayata gata gata para samgata bodhisattva. By the teachings of the three sublime jewels possessed by our truth, may inner and outer hindrances be transformed, may they be dispelled, and may they be pacified. May all negative forces opposed to the Dharma be completely pacified, and may the host of 80,000 obstacles be pacified. May we be separated from problems and harmful conditions to the Dharma, and may all enjoyments in accordance with the Dharma, and may there be spaciousness and perfect happiness here and right now. The foundation of all good qualities is kind and perfect pure Guru. Correctly devoting to him is the root of the path. By clearly seeing this and applying great effort, please bless me to rely upon him with great respect. Understanding that the precious freedom of this rebirth is found only once is greatly meaningful and difficult to find again. Please bless me to generate in mind that unceasingly day and night takes its essence. This life is impermanent as a water bubble. How quickly decays and death comes. After death, just like the shadow follows the body, the real black and white karma follow. Finding firm and definite conviction in this, please bless me always to be careful, to abandon even the slightest negativities and accomplish all virtuous deeds. Seeking samsaric pleasures is a door to all suffering. They are uncertain, cannot be relied on. Recognize these shortcomings. Please bless me to generate a strong wish for the bliss of liberation. Led by this pure thought, mindfulness, alertness, and great caution arise. The root of the teaching is keeping the Pachimoksha about. Please bless me to accomplish this essential practice. Just as I've fallen into the sea of samsara, so for all modern migratory beings. Please bless me to see this and train in supreme bodhicitta and bear the responsibility of free migratory beings. Even if I develop only bodhicitta but not practice the three types of morality, I will not achieve enlightenment. With my clear recognition of this, please bless me to practice the bodhisattva vows with great energy. Once I've pacified distraction to all objects, giving me announced the meaning of reality, please bless me to generate quickly my mind stream, the unified part of calm abiding and special insight. Have become a pure vessel by training in the general part. Please bless me to enter the holy gateway of the fortunate ones, the supreme Vajra vehicle. At a time, the basis of accomplishing the two attainments is keeping pure vows and samaya. As I become firmly convinced of this, please bless me to protect these vows and pledges like my life. Then, having realized the importance of the two stages, the essence of the Vajrayana, by practicing with great energy, never giving up the 4 sessions, please bless me to realize the teachings of the Holy Guru. Like that, may the Gurus who show the noble path, the spiritual friends who practice have long lives. Please bless me to pacify completely all out in the innocence. In all my lives, never separate from perfect Gurus. May I enjoy the magnificent Dharma by completing the qualities of stages and paths. May I quickly attain this state of Vajrayana. Sa ji pu gi jo je me do dra ri ra li ji ne de ge ba di zang ge nu me de war do ge na da je je bar jo idam guru ravna Tayami sangye chidan suni samnam janjo badu dani yasu yagi kyuju yibu sonam dola penje sangye duba sho sangye chidan suni janjo badu dani yasu dagi kyuju yibu sonam dola penje sangye duba sho sangye chidan suni Chanjo bado dani gyazu ji dagi ji dola penje sangye doba sho. Pangi tu sin nizi we tawa tanchi pangwa cher. Tama cheja tuncha ba godam de la chatsa la. Yes, we just read that just have I fallen into the sea of samsara, so of all modern migratory beings, please bless me to see this and train in supreme bodhicitta and be responsibility of freeing migratory beings. And so that's where we are in the model of bodhicitta. And then you can reflect that now you have found this precious human rebirth with the freedoms and endowments as we discussed quite some time ago. And not only the freedoms and endowments, but also we have seen that it's very difficult to obtain these kind of incredible circumstances of having met the teachers, having met a teacher, having met these kind of incredible circumstances for yourself to progress or to generate these stages of the path to enlightenment of the Lamrim, you know. And yeah, it is very difficult to find. Yeah, it's very difficult to accomplish, because from the point of view of the course, morality, practicing generosity, and effort and patience, for example, is not that easy, you know. So, and that together with the prayer for this purpose to achieve a precious human rebirth is very rare, right? It's almost impossible to find people on this planet who do that and then forget for the time being the great number of beings born in the lowest state of existence, like animal realms, spirit realms, for example. So that's, of course, no chance at all for them. But for us, being born not only as a human, but also as a human having all these kind of incredible conditions, you know, have met the Buddha's teaching in you know, what only exists 5,000 years and billion of years world evolution, right? Sakyamuni Buddha. And when the teaching of Sakyamuni Buddha ends, then it's about 49 billion years before Maitreya comes. And it's kind of a dark age, you know, very difficult period. So yeah, it's from the point of view of course and number, you can see it's extremely difficult to obtain the circumstances we have now. So most of us, we don't really realize that, but yeah. And then that's not only incredible, fortunate, but then especially on a day like today to discuss these points is kind of even more rare, right? And not only just precious human rebirth, but also the precious human rebirth has great meaning, as we know. Yeah, so temporary and ultimate meanings can be accomplished, meaning that you can create developments of again achieving precious human rebirth, one aspect, but also we can achieve liberation and enlightenment by depending on this incredible opportunity. So that's kind of extremely rare opportunity. And then not also every moment, you know, that's what it says. Can has great meaning every day, whatever we do, and especially today, we create courses for enlightenment. You know, so that's very rare for us to discuss bodhicitta upon, you know, this particular day of Lava Dushin, you know, the day of Buddha's descent from heaven. So yeah, it's a very fortunate situation. And then yeah, it says, just have I fallen into the sea of samsara. So that means that we have to understand samsaric suffering. Yeah, without understanding samsaric suffering, it's very difficult to generate bodhicitta. Yeah, also in the this from the foundation of all qualities, also in the three principal aspect of the path, it talks about the four currents, you know, where all sentient beings are undergoing suffering, currents of rivers, so to say, strong suffering without escape. You know, if you're in a very, you know, not just a nice creek or something, but if you imagine, you know, you can see on the news these days the kind of floods here and there, and you see some of the rivers that just take houses with them, you know? So that if you imagine that kind of current, you know, where you're in, just the physical body is very difficult to keep alive, right? And then you know, you be swept against all kind of hard objects, you know. So there's kind of, you know, the sufferings of birth, sickness, aging, and death, you know. So they'd be, but not only be swept away in this incredible heavy flood of beyond control, but also you're bound by karma and afflictions, right? And so if you're bound together or your feet and hands are tied, there's no escape from this current, you know. And not only escape, but also in this iron cage of ignorance. So even if you're able to lose to a certain extent your hands or your feet, you're still stuck because of ignorance. Yeah? So that verse in the in the three principal aspect of the path, often been explained, can be used to contemplate suffering yourself to generate realization, and then extend it to generate bodhicitta, yeah, based on compassion, the wish for others to be free of suffering. So this verse in the foundation of all good quality is very similar. Just have I fallen into the sea of samsara, meaning you have to understand this current of the four, types of suffering, or the four currents, what it says, or the sea of, disturbed, incredible heavy. If there's a lot of storm, and then also in the sea, you cannot really, if you be dropped in the middle of an ocean full of storm, it's impossible to escape, So same thing. And there's also the sufferings of the different sufferings of samsara, birth, sickness, aging, and death, for example. Yeah, we discussed many times the 7 or 8 types of suffering of samsara, or the 6 types of suffering of samsara. So those things you have to contemplate in order to understand what it's all about, this samsara suffering, And if you really understand that yourself well, that you're bound by karma and afflictions, this all-pervasive compounding form of suffering, among the 3 types of suffering, as we know, is the one to be understood. And the Buddha said, you should know suffering. The Buddha didn't say our headache, we should know the headache is a headache, right? The Buddha knew that that's very easy to recognize. So same, whatever sickness we have, that's very easy to recognize. But the all-pervasive compounding form of suffering, or being bound by karma and afflictions in this river, this heavy, with so many currents, then as long as you're bound by karma and afflictions, there's no escape, right? So that's the direct cause of suffering, karma and afflictions, direct cause. It directly produces suffering, produces mental suffering, physical suffering, because our verbal and physical behaviors are motivated by karma and afflictions. Right? So we have to contemplate those things well, and then see that the root cause of this kind of all-pervasive compounding form of suffering, of karma and afflictions, is ignorance, the grasping at an inherent I am I. So that causes us all these problems. So we have to reflect upon the direct cause of suffering, karma and afflictions, and the root cause of suffering being this ignorance. The more you understand those 2 aspects of suffering, the more you understand samsara. And the more you understand samsara, it easier will be to generate compassion for others. If you see others suffering, then you think, oh yes, it's so sad. But what we see on the news, people suffering in war, or sickness, or natural disasters, violence, is that suffering of suffering, right? It's kind of quite easy to recognize. But if you see the beings who are also happy, on the screen, or on in the movies, or this question, they're real happy, but when we see people just acting normally, kind of everything seems to be fine, still they're suffering, right? Why? Because they still have karma and afflictions, you see. So also for generating compassion, you should also understand this aspect, and then compassion becomes much stronger. Otherwise, compassion only is generated when you see actually the suffering of others, right? So same thing applies. The same kind of when the Buddha said you should know suffering, then the Buddha explained this all-pervasive compounding form of suffering to be known. And you should abandon the cause of suffering, meaning karma and afflictions. And that is rooted in ignorance. And you should you should manifest the true paths. You should manifest the true cessation and meditate on the true path. So in a similar way, you can think about all sentient beings, that, if you focus upon their suffering and then know their suffering, that as long as they have karma and afflictions, they have contaminated aggregates. As long as they have contaminated aggregates, they have contaminated birth, sickness, aging, and death. So the all-pervasive contaminated form, or the all-pervasive compounded form of suffering, as we say, exists in the minds of all sentient beings, right? So that we should know, that's what Buddha said, and then you should abandon, meaning you should help them to achieve the state of liberation, and abandon, the root cause of suffering being karma and afflictions, rooted in ignorance, And then you should also try to lead them to true cessation, meaning that they abandon afflictions. So that can, from beginning to end, meaning from helping them to reduce anger. So less anger comes. Is a kind of, it's not a truth of cessation, but it's similar to, right? So they develop their minds, and then eventually they will enter the paths, and then be able to accomplish these true cessations. an absence of particular types of suffering or an absence of a particular affliction, yeah, in stages. So also we can apply that aspect of the Four Noble Truths there as well, you know, that all sentient beings, may they and may I cause them to accomplish, you know, the truth of cessation. And in order to do that, they have to be led on the true paths. So also that we have to walk towards too. Yeah. So also Four Noble Truths, as you see, you should know suffering, you should abandon the cause of suffering, you should manifest the true cessation, and you should meditate on the true paths. Also, you can reflect it in the form of compassion, right, to other sentient beings. Yeah. Yeah. So please bless me to train in supreme bodhicitta and the responsibility of free migratory beings. That's the line of of that particular verse of the Foundation of Open Qualities. So the traditional outline in the Lamrim of the bodhicitta aspects of bodhicitta, it talks about, first of all, you know, as we know in the Lamrim, there's two things important, right? Why do I meditate on this? How do I do it? And how do I know I did it correctly? Or did it produce the right results that's mentioned in the text? Right? So why do I have to meditate? By the power of contemplating, you know, the benefits. You know, if you're convinced about the benefits, you know why you meditate on these points. And then how do I do that? Then we will go into the different methods. Yeah, you have the 7 cause and effect method. That's 1. Yeah, the exchanging self for other methods. That's 2. So the 7 cause and effect methods came down, we can say, from Maitreya and Asanga in that lineage. Yeah. Exchanging self for others came from Manjushri and Shantideva, for example. Yeah. But yeah, thanks to Atisha, who brought those 2 lineages together. In the length of the part, for example, and all related kind of mind training texts, because he received these special instructions from Lama Selingpa. Yeah. So there's 2 methods, and there's also a combination of those 2 methods. It's a more kind of oral tradition to combine those 2. So there are texts in the text, Lama Tsongkhapa, Pabongke Rinpoche, and there's a few kind of oral separate traditions of those points as well. Yeah, I mean how to combine the 2. Yeah, so we can go over that today and tomorrow. So that's the method, and then when you know you go in the right direction, number 3, check if you did it correctly, meaning that by contemplating these points, you know, your compassion will increase, and love and kindness will increase, and bodhicitta will increase until you achieve the spontaneous aspect of bodhicitta, meaning without effort it can be generated. Yeah, that's by the power of habituation. The mind of bodhicitta will be generated. Yeah, so that's yeah. Why do we meditate? How do we do it? And how do we know we did it correctly? You know. So then in Lamrim it talks about first of all, of course, talking about the benefits, right? That's the first outline. Second outline talks about, you know, how to generate it. Yeah, so the methods. Yeah. And then the third point is then how to train in the stages after having generated bodhicitta. Yeah, because we also know in the Foundation of All Good Qualities it says, even though I have generated bodhicitta, but if I do not practice 3 types of morality, I will not achieve enlightenment. So with my clear recognition of this, please bless me to practice bodhisattva vows with great energy. You know, so that verse refers to practicing the 6 perfections. Yeah, so there's 2 verses in the Foundation of All Good Qualities we recite every time, or maybe sometimes we might recite every day, referring to the subjects of today and tomorrow. Yeah, so generating bodhicitta and how to engage in the practices of a bodhisattva, meaning how do we commit ourselves in the practice of the 6 perfections, for example. Yeah, and that's exactly also what it's said on the outline of what the subjects to be covered. Yeah, so the benefits. Yeah, you can read in the different, you know, you can read Bodhisattva Charitatara, for example, the first chapter. Very inspiring, because even Shantideva says, if you just merely generate a wish for one person to be free of a headache, the incredible benefits that come from that is mind-boggling, you know. So then if you think about headaches of all sentient beings without exception, is even more superior. And then if you think about this all-pervasive compounding form of suffering, of all sentient beings, is even more superior, right? Yeah, so that's mind-boggling. And Shantideva says, if it takes the aspect of form, it won't fit into this world systems or in the 3,000 world systems. You know? So that means that it is not form, right? It's kind of mental intention and potentials in the mind. You know, if it takes form, then it won't fit in the 3,000-fold universes. That's what Shantideva says. You know, because yeah, if you think about countless beings, infinite, the vaster your intention is, the vaster the accumulation of merit. And we need this vast accumulation of merit in order to accomplish these vast activities as a Buddha, right? Yeah. So that's kind of, anyway, you can read, it's very inspiring chapter, you know, the first chapter of Bodhisattva Vatara, talking about, you know, the benefits to generate it. Yeah, in logic based, that's incredible powerful text by Shantideva. It's all based on logic, you know. Of course, the scripture references are there, but the main emphasis is the logic and the need why. Yeah. So yeah, and then in the traditional, in the Lamrim, it talks about 10 different benefits of generating bodhicitta. And the first benefit, also Shantideva comes to as a conclusion that that's the main kind of benefit, meaning the first benefit is kind of, it's the door to the great vehicle or the door to the Bodhisattvayana, right? So if you enter the Bodhisattvayana or not depends on generating bodhicitta or not. Yeah, we say Taita, Gata Gata. Taita means is as follows in the Heart Sutra. Gata Gate. So then it's actually referring to those parts, right? Gata Gata, Paragata, Parasamgata, Bodhisoha. So that means the path to enlightenment. So we're not on the path yet, unless you have generated bodhicitta, but we're not on the path yet, right? For us, it's, I mean, I'm talking about myself, it's quite very artificial. Where you have to sit and think and put your mind in order and make requests. And, you know, it's very artificial, you know. And then when it becomes uncontrived or not artificial, when it's spontaneous, you know, when you day and night think about it without effort, by the power of habituation over, you know, decades or lifetimes, you know, then when it's spontaneous, then we say the realization of bodhicitta. Yeah, we often talk about realization of bodhicitta. So that means a realization comes, as we know, in a process, you know, of having misunderstanding of realities, then have different types of doubt, generate correct assumption. Yeah, so that means in order to generate bodhicitta is very similar. We contemplate the different aspects of the 7 cause and effect methods, as well as exchanging self for other methods. And then we try to generate a more kind of understanding of the needs that is very similar to a correct assumption, you know, that it's really needed to accomplish this particular goal, you know, that completely be convinced about it. And then by the power of habituation, you know, things is the same thing. It's kind of, if you get habituated to driving a car, in the beginning it's very difficult, but then later on it's natural, right? Or learning a language, you always have to think, oh, how do I say this? How do I say that? You know, but then after you speak it fluently, you don't have to think like that anymore. It's automatic, you see. So with the realization, same thing. In the beginning, we have to put a lot of emphasis and try to think and enhance, and it's effort. There's a lot of effort involved. Yeah, same with language. When you understand the language, you got the beginning of the sentence and the end of the sentence, and you miss out in the middle. So you don't get it completely right. It happened to me a lot on the debate courtyard when I was just new. And then people just gave me a lot of tsars, which means you're finished, you're done, you contradicted yourself. Because then in the beginning you say something, in the middle you don't hear properly because you misunderstand. and they think you understood in a particular way, or you said yes, but actually you should have said no, you know. So then yeah, so that means when we learn a language, we have to put a lot of emphasis and a lot of effort to actually get it clear. Yeah, so there's a lot of conceptualizations and effort is needed, you know. But when it's fluent, it's kind of, you don't think about it anymore. You even can talk to yourself in that language, or in your sleep, or in your dreams sometimes, right? If you learn a new language, Even in your dream, you can talk that language. That's the power of habituation, right? So that's exactly what His Holiness says. Even in my dreams, I sometimes meditate on bodhicitta or meditate on emptiness or teach it. It's very interesting. That's the power of habituation, right? So initially there's a lot of effort needed for us, but there's a period of time it can become spontaneous, right? So that spontaneous aspect, then you enter, then you have the realization, and then you enter this kind of great vehicle or the bodhisattvayana, yeah, the paths to enlightenment. And then the real work starts. Why? Because everything you do from then on is motivated with bodhicitta, because it's spontaneous. It motivates all your activities, you see? So that's why it's a very, very precious mind to be generated, because then the real point starts. So that's incredibly beneficial. So that's the main, actually the main benefit, right? That it helps you to enter the great vehicle. So that's also the first benefit explained in the Lamrim. Yeah, Gyume means to the entry door to the great Bodhisattvayana. Yes, that's you don't need more benefits than that, because if you have bodhicitta in that way, then whatever you do is a cause for enlightenment. Whatever you do is going to benefit beings. See, so that's kind of the real thing to strive for. So and then that's number one. Yeah, so you enter the vehicle of the Bodhisattvayana. Number two is you become a bodhisattva. Yeah, body means the mind, so to say. Sattva is kind of a heroic being. Yeah, and body meaning mind, meaning the mind of enlightenment, right? Chanchu Sempa, pa means from Pao, means an heroic being. Is kind of, because of this incredible mind, everything can be done, and everything is done for that purpose. A very strong mind, as the Holiness says. If you have that mind, then so much confidence and so much kind of strong determination to go and to do it. It's like there's no low self-esteem anymore after that. Yeah, so it's kind of, what did I say? Bodhi sattva, right? So body means this mind of enlightenment. Sattva is a person, right? Or this heroic kind of personality. Janju Sempa, we say in Tibetan. Jangjup means enlightenment. Jang means to purify all faults or all mistakes. Jang. Jup means having all qualities. So that means enlightenment is a state where you have completely purified all mistakes and faults of the mind and accomplished all qualities, right, to the full potential. That's Jangjup, right? Sempa, Sem is from mind. Pa is this kind of makes it a person in the context of this heroic being. Jangjup Sempa, bodhisattva. Yeah, so you become a bodhisattva. Or sometimes we say a son or a daughter of the Buddhas, Gyalse. Se means, a child. You can say child. Gyal means victorious one. Gyalse. Victorious one, what kind of victorious one? A victorious one over the afflictions. So sometimes things go wrong in life, and then we make mistakes, and then we give the victory to the afflictions. You see, we do that sometimes. So a Buddha doesn't do that. The Buddha is completely beyond. Means the Buddha is the victor, the victorious one. Sometimes we translate the Gyawa. Victorious ones over the afflictions, but not only merely over the afflictions, also over their seeds and their imprints. Completely eliminated all obscurations to omniscience. That's why the Buddha has an all-knowing mind. Yeah. So that's the second benefit of you become a bodhisattva, meaning you become a child of the victorious ones. Yeah. And that's true because because you enter the paths, so you become very close to the Buddhas, right? Yeah, a child is close to the parents. So in a similar way, if you become a child of the victorious ones, you become very close to the Buddhas because you enter the paths, right? So after entering the paths, there's kind of only moving forward. You see that? So that's kind of, so that's benefit number two. Number three is that you go into a direction all the way up to enlightenment, which is from the point of view of benefiting sentient beings, more possibilities are given at the time of enlightenment than being an arat. You know, an arat can also teach, yeah, a person who achieved liberation for themselves, individual liberation. So it's a tarpa, yeah, we say, or prati moksha, yeah, individual liberation. So an arat has achieved that state. You know, an arat was always motivated with the motivation of want to be free from samsara themselves, right? Yeah, while a Buddha motivates, or a Bodhisattva, so to say, motivates to become enlightenment for the benefit of all sentient beings, to liberate all sentient beings, right? Not only thinking about oneself. Yeah. So there's, so the Sravakas and the Prachekas, they can also benefit beings, right? When they achieve the state of an arat, they teach, and they benefit by teaching or inspiring others, you know, or do all kind of activities. And the Prachekas, even more than that. The Prachekas, they kind of rangel. They like to stay by themselves. There's one type who likes to serota rangel, who always like to stay by himself. So what they promise is a very superior motivation also. They promise in the future, when they achieve the state of what we call the Pracheka Buddha, or Pracheka Arat, or Pracheka liberation. In that lifetime, may I appear in a place where there's no Buddhist teachings, and may I inspire people, you know, in this kind of spiritual path. It's very superior motivation also, right? So once I was in Sri Lanka, because we had to go, we had a kind of conference with different universities and organizations. It was a very high profile meeting. We had one representative from Ganden Monastery, one representative from Drepung, and I had to represent Sera Monastery. So we went 2 weeks, and we also even met with the Secretary of Prime Minister there and everything. So, and we met all the masters of the different lineages. It's very interesting. It was very interesting. A few conferences. It was very inspiring to be there, because Sri Lanka is kind of a real Buddhist country. 75% of the population is Buddhist. You know? So I felt so at home. And they're very open-minded people. They're quite open towards the Tibetan tradition as well. Yeah, unfortunately, there's a lot of Chinese influence, so that's why his Holiness can't go. But yeah, luckily, the person we were in contact with today, he fixed the problem for Tibetans to come, because they had problems to get to the country because of their certification. So luckily, the person we were in contact, he organized that it's possible to get visas for Tibetans. So I hope it's still the same. Okay. So then, when we went there, then we went on a pilgrimage with all the government officials. It was very inspiring, but we did kind of went over quite quick because it was scheduled to deal with. But yeah, it was very inspiring. So then we went to Anuradhapura, where is the place where you know, the tree in Bulgaria. We have the tree of where the Buddha achieved enlightenment. So there's one seedling of the tree went to Sri Lanka many years ago. You know? And then later on, when it died in Bulgaria again, it went back from Sri Lanka to Bulgaria. Right? So it's kind of a very precious place, Anuradhapura. So there was one person standing. And initially, first I thought, this is kind of it's not a human being. Was standing so still. You couldn't see one movement at all. But he was meditating. It's one of the austere practices in one of the forest traditions, you know. So I couldn't see. And then it was really inspiring, because he was standing and he had a board in front of himself, no money, because normally monks, you know, they don't need money, right? So, and then food only before noon. So very strict Vinaya holder, so to say, because we don't take food afternoon, you know. So then, and he was just standing there. And then I asked what it was, and then they explained this kind of this austere practice in meditation. It must be in calm abiding, otherwise you cannot stay for many hours like that, you know. So then in the evening I went to sleep, and then I was very inspired. So it's mine kind of same. I was thinking like a pracheka, you know. They don't really teach that much, but they just inspire people, you know, by just engaging in activity of meditation. It's very inspiring. So that's what the prachekas do, you know. They yeah. So yeah, those can be great benefits, right? So the Shravakas and Prachekas, the benefit number 3 is they engage in helping sentient beings, of course. But a Buddha can do much more, because a Buddha has an all-knowing mind, for example. Yeah. Shravakas, for example, can only read 100 lifetimes of sentient beings. Like Shariputra, for example, who was an Arhat, he had achieved a state of liberation, but only could read the minds of sentient beings for 100 lifetimes. So it's kind of, and the Buddha could read since beginner's lifetime. Yeah, there was one in particular individual who wanted to become a monk, and then Shariputra said, "Oh, you don't have the merit, because in 100 lifetimes I cannot see. It is difficult. If you become a monk, it will be very difficult for you. You face a lot of obstacles and very difficult." But then this person really depressed, and then went to the forest, and then met the Buddha, of course. And the Buddha said, "What happened?" And he told the story, and then the Buddha said, yeah, Shariputra only sees 100 lifetimes. I can see a bit more. I can see in beginner's lifetime. And I see that many thousand lifetimes ago, you accumulated this merit by going, you were not a human, but another being, and you were going around the stupa by accident. So in the stupa contained a relic. He was actually a fly, and then in the rain, some water was going around, and dropping of a cow, and then the fly was attached to the droppings, and then went, because of the water going around the stupa, luckily made a circumambulation among one of the stupas, contained a holy relic of one of the previous Buddhas. So then you can see, that's what we talked about sometimes, that if you're in the animal realm but you don't have a holy object, it's very difficult to get out of the animal realms, right? So that's also this story. So then the Buddha saw that. He said, Shariputra didn't see this because many thousand lifetimes ago, but based on that you can become monk, and even if you practice well, you can realize, you can get realizations. So that's what he did. And then the story of cleaning the temple, most of you know, to purify negative deeds. So he did the cleaning of the temple, and the Buddha always make sure that time he was finished with the one from the right to the left, and the Buddha makes sure there's already dust again in the left, so he could keep cleaning, and then saying, by the power of cleaning, I clean the dust of my mind. So then he even achieved a state of an Arhat in that lifetime. So you can see, in order to lead sentient beings, if you have an all-knowing mind, there's more possibilities, right? And that's exactly why we need these types of high developments of clairvoyance. So yeah, that's benefit number 3, that a Buddha can be of more benefit than Shravakas and Prachekas. Yeah. Then number 4 is you become an object for offerings of others, or respect of others, so to say. So yeah, that's nothing to get pride about, but that is for others to accumulate merit. The gods and all humans and non-humans, when they notice, or they can create causes for that. Because if you are a bodhisattva, and if they make offerings to you, then by the power of your prayers, they accumulate a lot of merit and make a connection. Especially those beings who need more to be led on the spiritual path. So yeah, sometimes you can see in the beggars in India, sometimes, or maybe even in the West, you don't know. We sometimes don't know who's who. Yeah. In India, there's very interesting beggars sometimes. Very interesting. Yeah, of course, some are just they have a bank account and health insurance and because life insurance is on the newspaper, because they get a lot of money in the trains in the early days. Because every coach, if every person gives kind of just 1 rupee, and there's about 70 people each coach, so let's say half of them give this 35 rupees right there, and you have like 10 coaches, and then you do a few of those trains a day, you get some money. But there are also beings, holy beings, who like to make connection with other sentient beings, and they show in the aspect of a beggar, or we don't know sometimes. It's kind of very interesting. Sometimes we just don't know. Kandula once told a story. She came from Tibet, and then she met one person, and then appeared as a kind of ordinary being, and then he said, "Oh, I give you the transmission of this text, of one of our Nagarjuna's texts." And then she straight away, because he has this kind of sees, right, what kind of person it is, so it's different. We don't see that. So yeah, anyway, it's kind of, we sometimes we don't know what kind of beings are among us. So yeah, that means that if you become kind of There's nothing to be proud about, but this bodhisattvas, they're beyond that kind of coarse form of pride, right? So they see that as an opportunity for others to make a connection. Yeah, so you become an object for respect and an object for offerings, so to say. Number 4. Then number 5 is you will accumulate quickly your accumulations. Why is that? Because your superior, your superior kind of motivation, helps you whatever you do is motivated for enlightenment. So you accumulate a lot of merit and wisdom. And merit from the point of view of working for the benefit of sentient beings. Tomorrow we'll go over the 6 perfections, and then I will tell you what merit is and what is wisdom, accumulation of wisdom. So in short, you have to accomplish Buddhahood, a state of a Buddha. So you have to create courses for the mind of the Buddha, and you have to create courses for the body of a Buddha. Because only the mind cannot really benefit. You have to put a body somewhere, or bodies at different places, to benefit beings, right? So you need to create courses for that. And that's exactly when we say accumulations, accumulation of courses for accomplishment of the Buddha's mind and the Buddha's body in your own continuum in the future. Yeah, it's just accumulation of courses for that to happen in the future. Yeah, so the more courses you create, the easier will come in the future, right? You see that? So that's why we call it the accumulations. And then those courses are divided in a twofold aspect of wisdom and merit, or wisdom and method, So method aspect is the bodhicitta, and only when the realization of emptiness is motivated with bodhicitta, it can eliminate what we call obscurations to omniscience. Yeah, so there's obstacles that prevents us from having an all-knowing mind can only be taken away by direct perception of emptiness that is motivated with bodhicitta. You see? Yes, so that's why bodhicitta, benefit number 5, why it's relatively easy to accumulate the accumulations of the courses to achieve the state of Buddhahood. You see that? Yeah, so that's benefit number. Which number? Yeah, 5. Yeah. So then number 6, negative karma, and deep, obscurations, so to say, gets purified. We know from Shantideva's interpretation of if you have bodhicitta, there's no more superior form of purification from the point of view. Is very interesting. We talked about many times about purification, remember? The 4 opponent powers, So regret, if you have bodhicitta, becomes very strong because you understand the suffering you've done to others, and now you have a wish for others to be free of suffering, right? So regret becomes very strong, And the power of reliance, as you know, is twofold. Refuge and generating bodhicitta. So in the power of reliance, of course, bodhicitta is already there. Because you generate a mind, for the purpose of sentient beings to achieve a state of enlightenment. And for that purpose, you also do the purification practice, the motivation, right? The power of reliance. So you see in the power of regret, your regret becomes much stronger because you understand the suffering of others and want others to be free of suffering now, right? So you regret the understanding of the negative deeds you've done to others and what kind of harm. It's a very constructive way of regret that comes if you have bodhicitta. Yeah. And then it's the power of reliance already there. And then from the point of view of the antidote, as Shantideva says, is the most superior antidote. Yeah, because why? If you contemplate bodhicitta, that means that in the past you have had a wish to harm others, and now you have a wish to help others. Right? You see that? And so it's exactly opposing negative karma created in the past. And so that's why bodhicitta is a very superior antidote in that regard. And then the power of resolve, of course. If you have bodhicitta, then of course you already promised to become a Buddha and to, eliminate all negative deeds, right? Because you promised to engage in the 3 moralities, and one of those 3 moralities is not engaging in non-virtue. So automatically the power of resolve is there. You see that? Yeah, of promising not to engage in similar mistakes in the future. So all those 4 opponent powers are actually naturally present in with bodhicitta. You see that? Yeah, so that's the reason, probably the reason why number 6 is that negative activities and negative karma created in the past gets purified easily, because those four opponent powers are automatically there. Whatever you do, it's kind of automatically, it's in the process. You put on the washing machine on a particular program, and you don't have to, some washing machines you do when it's almost done, or then you have to, when you do the washing, there's a separate program for, how we call it, rinsing, the rinsing aspect, and drying. Some washing machines, you first do the washing, that's finished, and then you do the next program of rinsing and drying, yeah. But some washing machines is automatic, so you put in, and then you put in the, yeah, I know a lot about washing because we did all for 20 years. I did my clothes always with the hand. A bar of soap. There's 2 ways. You have 1 bar of soap for the dirty parts, and then this loose soap to soak it. So mostly Monday evening soak, and then Tuesday is a holiday, so everybody's always washing their robes in the monastery on Tuesdays. But now we have a washing machine there. But anyway, so that means that in the washing machine it's automatic. You put it in and you just switch the button. Yeah, you press the power. So in the same way, if you have bodhicitta, automatically those, of course, we contemplate those 4 opponent powers, but it comes like naturally. You see that? That's why, probably the reason why it's very easy and quick to purify negative deeds. Benefit number 6. Yeah. Then benefit number 7 is our wishes. Of course, the wishes in accordance with the Dharma will quickly be accomplished. Yeah. So our wishes, of course, are in accordance with the Dharma, because we have this spontaneous bodhicitta, right? So then we will never think about worldly things, because that's already automatically the 8 worldly dharmas is out of the door when you have bodhicitta, right? So that means that all those worldly activities, the interest is completely gone, reversed. Yeah. So so then all your wishes according to the Dharma, that's of course is there. All your wishes are in accordance with the Dharma naturally, and you will accomplish them. Why? Because by the power of bodhicitta, prayers bring much more results. There's all this, the power of prayer, especially for bodhicitta, based on this motivation, it will come about. It's just a matter of time, right? So that's very interesting. Yeah. So So number 7 is that your wishes will be quickly fulfilled, because your main wish is enlightenment, and the stronger your bodhicitta is, and the stronger, with the greatest effort you practice, the quicker you achieve enlightenment. We say 3 countless eons is a very long period of time, or 46 countless eons is even longer. But if you have supreme methods, even in the sutra system, the always crying bodhisattva, for example, he accumulated 1 countless eon of merit in a few weeks' time. So it is possible if you have a sophisticated state of mind to do those things, And that's all thanks to this mind of bodhicitta, you see? Yeah. So, you will quickly accomplish all your wishes. Yeah. Number 7. Yeah. And then number 8 is that negative forces or humans or non-humans cannot really harm you. They come and praise to you. They come and praise you, as we saw one of the other benefits. So when His Holiness, I told the story a few times. It's very in relation with this benefit also. When His Holiness was invited to deal with some spirit harm somewhere in the Gangar Valley with a Tibetan family, then they prepared all the ritual implements and everything. And then His Holiness said, "Well, get away with this table. I don't know anything about ritual." And then His Holiness just meditated on love, kindness, compassion, and bodhicitta, of course. And the spirit harm went. So it means, it's true, right? If another person likes to say something nasty to us, but we keep our mind cool and relaxed and with a good motivation, we try to solve the problem. There's much greater possibility to solve the problem than to get angry yourself and fight that person. Right? You see that? Yeah, so that's kind of great benefits of this potential of positive states of mind. Yeah, you see that? Yeah, bodhicitta. Yeah, so that external forces cannot really harm you. And if they like to harm you, then you know, they can take your life or something like that, but that's it. They cannot really take away your bodhicitta, right? So that's the real jewel to have. And that just carries on next lifetime. Same as Holiness says, oh, if the Chinese kill me now, it doesn't matter. Next lifetime, I just continue. You see? That's the kind of bodhisattva attitude, you know, and that can never be taken away. That can never be stopped. And that can never be harmed. You see that? That's kind of benefit number 8, no? Yeah. Then number 9 is we will quickly progress on the grounds and paths. So grounds and paths means this taita, gata gata, paragata, parasamgata, bodhisoha. Yeah, so that means that if you have bodhicitta, this spontaneous realization of bodhicitta, you enter the paths, right? And there's kind of 5 paths. Gata gata, 2, paragata, 3, parasamgata, 4, bodhisoha, 5. Yeah, so that means you, like a washing machine, you have this program of eliminating all your stains or all your faults of your mind. Yeah. So by contemplating, realizing emptiness in meditative equipoise, yeah, you eliminate all these obscurations and afflictions. Then you come out of that meditation and you walk for the benefit of beings, and you accumulate merit. Yeah, so by the power of on these 5 parts, or so to say, the 4 parts of training, there's 4 parts in relation with the training, and 1 part what we call no more learning. The 5th one is you have accomplished Buddhahood. Yeah, so yes, yeah, sometimes actually quite important to know those parts, but yeah, you want to write down? So it's part of accumulation, number 1. So you accumulate merits in order to make your emptiness realization more profound. Just keep it simple. Yeah. That's the part of accumulation, the first one. So if you have bodhicitta, you enter in this part of accumulation. And then the real work starts. Because of that incredible bodhicitta that is spontaneous, you accumulate, as we just saw, incredible amounts of merit, right? So you prepare your mind to make your mind realizing emptiness, make it more profound, you know? Yeah. So then the next one, that's number 1, right? Part of accumulation. Part number 2 is the part of preparation, to prepare. Yeah, part of preparation. So the accumulation, the part of preparation, the realization of emptiness is much more superior on the part of preparation than it is on the part of accumulation. Yeah, and the part of preparation is kind of non-duality of calm abiding and special insight. You know, a wisdom that arises from meditation upon emptiness. Anyway, we can do later, but just think it's more profound aspect of realization of emptiness on the part of preparation. So why preparation? Because you prepare your mind to direct perception of emptiness. Yeah, we know we have to have a direct perception of emptiness in order to eliminate obscurations to omniscience, right? So the part of preparation prepares you for direct perception of emptiness, which as soon as you see emptiness directly, you go to the part of seeing. Yeah, you see emptiness directly. That's why it's called part of seeing. You know, we know conceptual realization of emptiness. Same if you close your eyes and you think about the screen, there's a mental image of the screen, but it's not as clear as we see the screen with our eyes, right? Yeah, so the conceptual realization of emptiness is kind of not as clear as a direct perception. Yeah, you see that? Yeah. So when you have direct perception, that's kind of the part of seeing. Yeah. And then you have to do a little bit more work. So it's a very complicated washing machine program in order to eliminate all these obscurations, right? Begin in this lifetime, it's kind of a long time. And those habituations are very strong. So it needs a lot of work, you know? So that's why we have the part of meditation, number 4. Yeah, so the part of meditation is in a very sophisticated system of different aspects of the grounds, so to say. You know, the bodhisattva bhumis, you go step by step to eliminate different aspects of faults of the mind and accomplish the qualities. Yeah, so that's kind of what we say 10 bhumis, you know, 10 bodhisattva grounds. But yeah, you can don't have to write it down, otherwise it becomes too much. So that's the part of meditation. Yeah, so we have 4 parts, right? Accumulation, preparation, seeing, and meditation. So they're the 4 parts of training of the bodhisattvas. Yeah, so there's the parts of the training, you know. And then when you accomplish your goal, becoming a Buddha, then it says bodhisoha, meaning the part of no more learning, because you don't have to learn anymore. You have learned everything. You're an all-knowing mind. You have an all-knowing mind. Yeah, yeah. So it's important to know, because yeah, one day, yeah, those who do BP, then I planning to do that one day, because it's very important. Why is it important? This is the map to enlightenment, right? And what do I have to do on those paths? It's very important to know. And also when you take refuge, you have to know, what does it mean to be an Arya being? You know, what does it mean, a direct perception of emptiness? Anyway, we come to that later, but at least you have the layout of the paths. Yeah. 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 Discovering Buddhism is called still. We're still discovering. So now we're already going into the hardcore kind of material aspect of planning the paths. You know, we study this kind of Buddhism for 20 or 30 years in the traditional system, and discovering Buddhism is, what is it, 13 weekends. Yeah, so yeah, that's why it's called discovering. But anyway, it's good imprints to know, especially today, auspicious day, to know these paths, you know. Yeah. So that was benefit number 9, right? Yeah, number 9, meaning you will quickly progress on these grounds and paths. Just the paths we just discussed, you know. And then when you read the Heart Sutra and you recite that mantra, it says the most superior mantra is this mantra: Taita, Gata Gata, Paragata, Parasamgata, Bodhisoha. Because that includes everything from beginning to end of the spiritual path. You see, all these 5 parts we just discussed is within this mantra, you know. Yeah, so that's yeah, good to know. So that's number 9. Yeah. Then number 10, you know, we become an object for temporary and ultimate happiness for all sentient beings. Why? Because we are really constructive working towards that goal, right? That you know, because of you can help countless beings to temporary and ultimate forms of happiness, and eliminate temporary suffering and ultimate all sufferings. You see that? So that's number 10. And that's why is that so? Because even as a bodhisattva, on these grounds and paths, as we just discussed, you get more and more realizations. You get more and more capacities. And so there's kind of 10 bhumis, I said. So first bhumi, for example, you can emanate 100 emanations to help in 100 different kind of world systems, to help beings. And that multiplies, you know, every ground. So you can imagine, the further you get in these 5 paths, the more you can do for others. You see that? That's exactly benefit number 10, that, you know, you become a kind of object for temporary and ultimate happiness of all sentient beings. Yeah, you see that? That's kind of, yeah, the 10 benefits. You can also read those 10 benefits back in the Lamrim text, yeah, like Lama Tsongkhapa's Middle Length Lamrim, or Great Exposition, or Pabonka Rinpoche's Liberation Palm of Your Hand, you know? Yeah. Because the more you contemplate the benefits, the more you get convinced, especially if you combine it with the Bodhisattva Vichara, the need to develop it. You see? And that's what His Holiness always, you know, emphasizes, that, you know, this is the main practice, you know, to generate bodhicitta. And then at the time of death, there's no fear, because it's the best transfers of consciousness, and it gives you so much courage and strength. You know, that whatever happens, if you have this mind, you don't have to worry anymore. You just go only forward, right? Yeah. So that's yeah. You can read more in the Lamrim or in the first chapter of Bodhisattva. So that's the benefits. So then there's 2 methods, right? So first we talk about benefits, and then we talk about methods. So the 2 methods we already discussed many times before. So don't have to go too much detail, but in each of those 2 methods, we use kind of equanimity, right? And the 2 types of equanimity are slightly different in those 2 methods. Yeah. The first 7 cause and effect method, the equanimity in there is referring to 3 individuals in life, or you can group all, you know, all beings out of your life into 3 groups, right? What kind of groups? those you like, those we dislike, and the neutral people. Yeah, so to make everybody as equal, because the 7 cause and effect method is focused upon seeing all sentient beings as your mother, right? To see since beginner's lifetime, there's no reason why not. They all have been my mother, you know. So in order to let that come more about, and then later on in that technique generate love and kindness and compassion for all without exception, if you make an exception to those, you know, who we dislike, you say, oh, everybody except this one, except that one, then it's not really a genuine form of compassion and love and kindness, right? So it means that's why this equanimity is referring to those 3 individuals, you know, the 3 groups, so to say. With the exchanging self for others, there's also equanimity, but then there's more the equanimity understanding that, like you want happiness and don't want suffering, all sentient beings are equal in that regard, you know. So that's kind of a different technique, also very powerful, because of course, if you take this practice of equanimity also as a preliminary to the equanimity of exchanging self for others, then it becomes even more profound, right? To see all sentient beings as equal from the 3 groups, and then on top of that, seeing that they all of them want happiness, don't want suffering. In that regard, they're equal as well. Yeah? Sometimes we combine the 2 types of equanimity, but sometimes it's also good to know what comes from where, you know, so that things makes more clear in the different traditions. Yeah. So then the first equanimity is, yeah, as we discussed many times before, you know, it's true, right? A person you like or dislike or have a neutral feeling towards is just temporarily there. It's not really inherent from its own side existing person. You know, the person you like can be disliked by somebody else, right? So person A you like and you see the qualities, and somebody else sees faults of person A and dislikes person A. But person A is the same person. It's not that it changes different kind of aspects within the mind of that person by depending who's looking at that person. It's just how we look at that person that makes a difference. You see that? Yeah. So that's kind of the basis logic that over time it also changes. Yeah. And at a particular moment, other people see those individuals in different lights than we see, and over time they change. Yeah. The person we dislike now, when we solve the problem, which is sometimes based on misunderstandings, then we always think, oh, this person does say this because of that. The person acts like this because of this. It does like this because of that. We think like that, especially when irritation comes. But it doesn't always have to be the case. Sometimes we just imagine that. And then you talk with a person and then we see, oh, it's actually not true. It's just mentally fabricated, you know. And then we see we're wrong. We had a misinterpretation, incorrect form of consciousness. And then we see the qualities of the person. Only then, you see that? And then they become a friend. So even over time, yeah, worst enemy can become friend. You see that, no, in life. I had a person didn't go along very well when I was a teenager, and later on became very good friends, and we hitchhiked across Europe. You know, so you know. But on the other way, it also can change the other way around, right? It can also change from the point of view of a person who's very dear to you, and then you know you see some faults you didn't see before, and then it changes into a person you dislike and like to avoid. You know, so that's over time it also changes, and from the point of view of the individuals it changes. Yeah. And the point of view how we perceive it changes. And it's also true for a person we never met before, or kind of neutral person on the street. Yeah, if we don't know the person, we have an indifferent feeling, but somebody else is very close to that person, right? And somebody else might like the person, somebody else might hate the person, but the person is the same, and we have an indifferent feeling. But when you start to know the person more, then there's a possibility of starting a friendship. You see, so over time things change, and from individual perceptions there's a difference. Yeah, so you see that. So many reasons to see there's no inherent from its own side existing, you know, bad or good aspect. Of course, we all have qualities and faults, and all beings around us have similar aspects, right? But if we only focus on one of those aspects, that's not in accordance with reality. we have to focus upon both aspects, right? So strong attachment to one person, mainly focus upon the qualities, or a strong aversion to one person, mainly focus upon the faults. Yes, we discussed many times. So those two extremes have to be prevented. Yeah, in this kind of equanimity, kind of contemplation of yeah. So that's the root. So if we go back to the 7 cause and effect method, there are 6 causes and 1 effect. And equanimity is kind of the basis, or preparing the field, so to say. If you want to grow the tree, you know, or the sprout of bodhicitta, you know, if you want to, that bodhicitta sprout, so the seed is referred to compassion, well, great compassion. Yeah, so great compassion is kind of the seed for bodhicitta to arise. Then equanimity is like the field, perfectly, you know, here in the West, everything is automatic with the tractors and you know, making the field completely, you know, kasa, flat and the right, the right kasa, how you call it? Yeah, the soil being not too hard, not too loose, kind of right consistency for the soil and everything. So yeah, that's kind of preparing. That's like equanimity, right? So in India, people take out the stones of the field and prepare. You know? So that's the equanimity meditation, and it's really true, because if the field is not completely well prepared, you know, where there are stones that obstructs the crops growing in different directions, and that make difficult to do weeding and all kind of other activities, right? So it's very important to prepare the fields. Yeah, I started a little bit of agriculture, so one day we were actually very practical when I was in college, pre-university. It was a few years to get used to this, and one day we had not one day, but I think it was 2 weeks. This was a very practical. I think even in university we got a practical term like that, because we had to make a lot of plans and projects. How will a nature conservation area look like, or area with roads, or how do we design things? So we should know what the machinery can do and how to become more green, because then already was quite popular. So there's hydraulic machines who make this kind of dikes, or you know. So at that time everything is perfect straight, you know. Everything is perfect straight. So that's not very good for biodiversity, you know. So then we were always joking, or the person who was behind the machine should be a bit drunk in order to make things not too straight for more biodiversity in the area. But anyway, so then we had also one practical term for 2 weeks. We could drive those machines ourselves to see what it is like, because we always in the office, no? So it was very interesting. So then we were not very capable. So then one person was with a big, and it was huge machines, you know. The wheels are like the height of a human being, you know, those dumpers we drove with, you know. But a lot of safety measurements was there, because luckily there's a huge, you know, huge place with just sand, this kind of beach sand. He was just playing around. That's what we did. So one person was digging a hole with this huge hydraulic machine, and then the dumper came, took away. And the other one was with a bulldozer closing it. So he drove the bulldozer too far, so he went upside down into the hole. But yeah, it's all safety measures, so it's okay. But yeah, anyway. So, but the reason why I say that, because if you have an equal kind of area, the crop will grow very well, right? Yeah, so that's why equanimity is preparing the field. Yeah. Then the seed is compassion. Why is the seed compassion? Because bodhicitta is a main mind, which has 2 aspirations. One aspiration is this compassion, great compassion, a wish for all sentient beings to be free of suffering and to take responsibility for that, right? So that's one result we have to accomplish, right, in order to generate the mind of bodhicitta. That's the causal aspiration, as we call it, you know. Then there's also a resultant aspiration, meaning that's based on where I will discuss later, but that's called the special intention. Yeah, by generating this strong compassion with the special intention of compassion of I want to liberate sentient beings. Yeah. So then the next step, in order to generate, so at the special intention, you have this wish of freeing sentient beings from their suffering and take responsibility for that. You see? So that's the kind of nyelen, we say, the substantial cause for bodhicitta, right? Because it's one of the causal aspirations. Yeah. Yeah. So then, in order to accomplish bodhicitta itself, you need also a reasoned aspiration, meaning you have to have a wish to accomplish a development of mind with which you can help sentient beings to the full extent. And that development of mind is what we call the mind of a Buddha, or Buddhahood. Right? So that's the resultant aspiration. So if you come from the special intention to bodhicitta, that resultant aspiration causes you to generate bodhicitta, because you already have this aspirational causal aspect of great compassion, right? So then as soon as you get this spontaneous aspect of I need to become a Buddha in order to liberate sentient beings, then this body-mind is being generated. You see that? So there's two aspirations there, a causal one and a resultant one. So that proves that compassion is the causal aspiration and well the seed, the main substantial cause for bodhicitta. And so the equanimity is preparing the field, yeah. Bodhicitta, great compassion. And then I said great compassion because great compassion is the responsibility of the wish to take the responsibility yourself. You get compassion, and we could talk about it later again. But don't worry if you don't get it in first kind of thing. We go over it again. Yeah, so it means I take responsibility to liberate sentient beings. That's what we call great compassion. Yeah. So that is kind of the seed. And then love and kindness, as we also contemplate in the 7 cause and effect method, is kind of the fertilization and the heat and the moisture, the corporate conditions. Because love and kindness is based on the mind to get close to sentient beings, right? So the closer we get to sentient beings, also in Tibetan we say Yida Ongwa Jampa. Jampa means love and kindness. Yida Ongwa means pleased to the mind, or a pleasurable kind of appearance. That means if people are close to you, then there's this kind of pleasure appearance that comes, right? So that's based on this love and kindness, you see? So the closer you are to sentient beings, the stronger your compassion becomes, right? Yeah, so that's kind of very kind of logical way of why we structure this 7 cause and effect method in a particular sequence. You see that? Yeah. Yeah. So that's just to go back, that equanimity is preparing the fields. Then the bodhicitta to be rise, or the sprout of bodhicitta to grow, it needs a seed, right? Without a seed, there's no sprout. So the seed is great compassion. And then this heat, moisture, fertilization, that actually is the love and kindness aspect. Yeah? Yeah, so that's kind of the outline. And after the break, we will go into the actual methods of this, what are the 6 causes and what is the effect. Yeah, it's called 7 cause and effect method, but actually 1 is effect and 6 causes. Yeah, and so, but equanimity is not a part of that number, but equanimity is just the mere preparation. That's why we talked about it now. Yeah, to see friend, enemy, and stranger as completely the same, equal, so to say. So that's yeah, the introduction to that aspect. Yeah, okay. So then there's a break for tea and coffee and whatever, exercise and something like that. Yeah. So enjoy your break, and then maybe what I say, 20 minutes is okay. 20 minutes. Yeah. So quarter to 12. Yeah, we meet again. Okay. And the questions we do after. Alex, is okay? Yeah. Yeah. Next session. Okay. Enjoy your tea and your coffee. Yeah. Just before we break, just bodhicitta dedication and emptiness dedication. Chanjo samjo rinpoche magye pana gyu chik geba nyamba meba yang gone gonde belwa sho toni tawa rinpoche magye pana gyu chik geba nyamba meba yang gone gonde belwa sho. All right, enjoy a break. See you soon.